Well, it was a long time coming, but European leaders have finally unveiled their debt rescue plan. After all-night talks, banks agreed to take a 50% loss on their Greek debt, and they'll have to raise more than €100 billion in new capital. An EU bailout fund's been expanded with new powers to ensure against losses on government debt. To analyse whether it'll work, I'm joined in the studio by economics correspondent Stephen Long. Stephen, the markets have rallied on this news. Is it the solution that the world needed?
No, I don't think so, Leigh. This thing's got more holes in it than Swiss cheese. At the moment, crucial details are missing. The numbers don't add up, or at least they don't make sense in the real world. And this is very much a work in progress still.
OK, so let's break that down. What are the crucial details that are lacking first?
Too many to mention, but let's start with the bailout fund, Leigh. It's going to be converted, as we expected, into a kind of insurance scheme for new government debt issued in the EU. But we don't know what level of guarantees are going to be provided against losses on that government debt. That hasn't been spelled out. We're told that private investors will be able to purchase this insurance, but at what price, we don't know, and why that will be more attractive than the existing insurance you can purchase against debt default in the markets right now. We don't really know how they're going to convert a few hundred billion euros in the fund at the moment into 1.4 trillion, as they say.
What about the other point that you raised, that the numbers don't add up? In what way?
Well, let's look at the situation where they're saying that the banks will have to raise 106 billion euros. I think that's about 140 billion Aussie dollars. And that's roughly equivalent to the write-down that they're taking on the Greek government debt. You know, that doesn't fully equate because some of the banks have already written it down. But you're looking at a situation where effectively the banks are only going to be raising tens of billions of new capital on top of the write-down on the Greek debt. So there's no accounting there for broader economic effects from the situation in Europe. The potential for them to have losses on their commercial loans, on their commercial property loans, on their business loans, on housing loans, on derivatives from the situation, the macroeconomic stresses aren't being accounted for. There's no accounting for any write-downs on any other government bonds in the EU. And in fact, that's specifically being ruled out in the paperwork. Now, that's weird, given that the whole premise for expanding the bailout fund was that there are a whole lot of other countries in trouble.
But, OK, if you're right, then why have stocks been soaring today on the back of this?
A knee-jerk reaction to the fact that there is a deal. I think that once people drill down into the detail and see that realistically in the real world, the banks are going to need hundreds of billions of dollars of additional capital, and look at where that's going to come from, then you'll get a reaction that's not so rosy. The details are still really yet to be worked out on this, and we won't know what the overall response will be until we find out what this really means. Because at the moment, listening to the press conferences, I really don't think the EU leaders understand how this is going to work, Leigh. I certainly don't.
All right, well, we'll rely on you in coming weeks to hopefully figure it all out. Stephen Long, thank you.
You're welcome.